Hi everyone. I wanted to quickly introduce this video from NonCompete that I'm going to let play in its entirety after this, just with some of my thoughts. So obviously for anybody in the know, Zoe Baker made a takedown video of NonCompete, one of his older videos, and this is his response to that. What struck me from this is how capitalistic some leftist YouTubers are. And I'm no exception here. You know, clickbaity titles, interesting thumbnails, going after other people, the drive to create content no matter what. And I think you can also see this in the force the vote Jimmy Dore AOC shenanigans that have infected leftist spaces for the past few weeks and have ended up with Jimmy Dore being on Tucker Carlson's show, which is just hilarious. The creme de la creme. And I think really exposes the endpoint, or highlights, I guess, the endpoint of this kind of approach to leftist thought, to politics, to criticism. And I don't think that's somewhere that anybody should want to be. I think we need to be really careful that we are using YouTube and social media as a tool, and that we are not letting it influence the kinds of things that we create. And in media studies, there's this notion of affordances and limitations of different platforms and of different technologies. I think we really need to be clear about what the affordances are of platforms like YouTube. They are obviously incredibly useful. However, at the same time, the limitations, and for anybody playing at home, they'll know that the Surfs, hours ago, had their YouTube channel nuked. And so it's really important that we approach these issues a lot more holistically, and that we are trying to approach them not only in good faith, but in a sophisticated manner that allows us to really effectively utilize them. So without further ado, I'm going to let NonCompete's video play. The link to that is in the description below. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Hi, I'm American Johnson. This is NonCompete. I'm sitting here in my pajamas. It's 5:24 a.m. I'm in the house all alone in an empty house in Da Nang, Vietnam. Luna, my partner, currently visiting her family in her hometown. And I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm making this video against my better judgment. I'm going to talk a little bit about some drama. So drama alert. I'm not going to edit this at all, but I have to get this off my chest before I go to sleep. I can't sleep right now because there's some things I just have to say. So first thing I want to do is say that right off the bat, I feel really shitty that I'm making this video right now about myself. Because to be honest, I've been having these feelings boiling inside of me for a very long time now. Perhaps as long as I've had a channel. And I should have made this video a long time ago about somebody other than myself in my own personal situation. Okay. That's something I want to say right now. It's a failing on my part. And it's a weak, it's been a weak, I feel like it's a weakness, and I should have made this video about somebody else, because what I'm about to describe my situation, I've seen it happen to other people way, way infinitely worse than what I'm going through. And I'm not a victim. If I am a victim, it's of the most supremely petty crime or offense, however you want to put it. And I don't want you to feel sorry for me at all, because this is actually a very silly situation, to be honest. And I do not want the person that kind of set this all off. I have no ill will towards that person. Don't want anybody to obviously harass or attack or say anything. Don't just leave that person alone. If you happen to know who I'm talking about, I'm not going to name them or the channel. Just leave that person alone I'm begging you, please. That's not the point of this at all. And I have no ill will towards that person. But somebody made a takedown video of one of my videos. So I'll just give the context really quickly. I'll give my response because they made it. They called it a takedown video. They made this takedown video. I do want to make a quick little response, but then I want to talk to something that's deeper. Okay, so the basic idea is 8 months ago, I made a video on platformism, what I called platformism. And I presented ideas that I had basically learned not from a book, but from some comrades. And I'll give you a little background on that. 4 years ago, in late 2016, early 2017, I was working with some other comrades to try to form an online organization, which kind of fell by the wayside. They got busy with other projects. We couldn't quite figure out how to structure the entity we were trying to form. It just didn't work out. But I've since kept in touch with those people, and they're awesome people. It's only like 4 or 5 people. They're not well known. They don't have YouTube channels. They're not theorists. They're not anybody you'd ever heard of before. Okay. They're just normal on the ground people who are doing mutual aid, direct action stuff. And I try to keep in touch with them to try to get a feel for what's going on. I ask them questions all the time about praxis, what's working, what's not. We talk about theory, etc. Just some of my friends, really. People I've known for a long time. So they've taught me this concept of platformism in the context and the way that I used it. They told me that it was based on the ideas of Nestor Makhno, which I believe it was. If you look at, there are parallels, and I think there are strong parallels, actually. But it's not what Nestor Makhno presented as platformism. Now, I did mention Nestor Makhno in my video as being kind of the origin of these ideas. I probably didn't make it clear enough that there is kind of a pretty big rift in what I was describing as platformism and what Makhno described as platformism. And I think this is a situation where I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I immediately had comments after I made the video that said like, hey, what you're describing is not what Makhno described. And I replied and said, hey, okay, I didn't know that. I got this information from working with other comrades and organizing work and that sort of thing. And I've actually applied them because I had applied those ideas and I found them to be very useful in the way that I presented them. I found them to be useful in my praxis. And in fact, I'm going to continue using the word platformism in the way that I did in that video. And I'm not going to make apologies about it. I will always try to clarify that I'm not talking about Makhno's conception of platformism, but I'm not going to stop. I still think it's a great framework. It's a great set of ideas and principles, and it works. It's worked in the situations when I've used it. I think it's been effective, in my opinion. Okay. And I don't feel bad about disagreeing about that. Where I admit that I may have made a mistake is by not writing the best script, not quite, being fairly ignorant. I only read about 1 or 2 articles by Makhno to try to get some context about it, but that wasn't what was important to me. What was important to me was it was a crisis situation at that time. It was 8 months ago. It was right when COVID was really breaking out. I was trying to help and encourage people to organize, and this was a principle that in my personal experience seemed to work, and that's why I was sharing it with folks, okay? So it was a hastily made video, not the best video I've ever made. I don't even think I had a script. Did I? I don't remember. But if I did have a script, I must have written it very quickly. I think I was going through an outline or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, off the cuff vid, not my best work, not my finest hour, and admittedly lacking. Okay. So here's my situation now. This person 8 months later makes this video, markets it as a takedown video, teases it as a takedown video, and presents it as a takedown video with a thumbnail that says initially that I can't read. I think they have since changed the thumbnail if I'm not mistaken. But initially the thumbnail said like that I can't read, and it was just I found it insulting, mild insult, but pretty insulting and not particularly kind the way that it was framed. But the video itself was great, honestly. Great information, very well presented, very clearly presented. I would have been very happy to have had some role in the creation of that video if it had just been framed slightly differently. And I think it could have been framed. First of all, it would have been kind of them to solicit some clarification from me, which I believe that I did offer clarification. This is, again, 8 months ago. I know that in the comments and in some correspondence with people, I definitely presented clarification. I've never shied away from saying that, yeah, I'm not a big expert on Macno, and these ideas, I didn't pick them up from reading a book. Never shied away from that. So anyway, I wish that I could have had some opportunity to have some input, or clarification, maybe in the production of that video. I don't feel like that's a big ask. I think that it's kind of normal to solicit that. But that's not really the big point. The big point is just the way it was framed. If it had just been framed very slightly differently, I think everyone would have come out of it a lot better off. It would have elevated that person's channel. It could have elevated mine if they chose to do that, but I'm not expecting that. But it could have, more importantly, elevated the movement, so that we're talking about these ideas that are very important, not the individuals. But instead, it's become this big sensational thing where we're talking about the individuals. I'm having to defend myself. They're having to defend their attack against me. And we're talking about each other as individuals. I've never made a takedown video of another leftist, and I'll tell you why. I've made 3 videos that might be considered a leftist. I'll run through them really quickly. I took down a liberal called Review Tech USA in a video that I'm not a fan of. I wish that I didn't make that video the way that I did. I think it was rushed. I don't think I presented my ideas very clearly. Regardless, that's probably the real takedown video that I've done. I did the video on Chomsky versus Chomsky. And I feel like I tried very hard to compose that video in a way that I would have been comfortable with somebody composing it if it were about me. And really, I promoted Chomsky's best ideas, I think, in that video. I think that I was really trying to expose my audience to Chomsky's brilliant ideas. There's one thing I pushed back against him on, which was signing that Harper's letter. But really, I think that Chomsky is brilliant, and I consider him a comrade, and I tried to make it in such a manner that if he watched that video, he wouldn't feel insulted or attacked. And I like to think that if he saw that video, that he would take it in the good faith that I was really trying to present it in. So that might be, maybe you can consider that a takedown video. I don't really think, I tried very hard not to make it into a takedown video. And then the third takedown video that I can recall making was on Thought Slime, and that was just a satirical joke. I actually agreed with Thought Slime in that video. It was like a jokey version of a takedown video. And other than that, I've never done a takedown video of a leftist. I've tried very hard not to sow unnecessary discord in our movement with other leftists. And there's a reason for that. And there's theory behind that as well, which we'll get into. But the main thing is, I just think that we have this, and this is where I really want to get, like, again, I want to move beyond me and my personal situation. And I want to say that I've seen this culture we have, especially online, but offline too, on the left. And it's disgusting to me. And I'm not talking about this one specific person or their video or my situation. I'm saying in general, we have this disgusting culture where we do not treat each other the way we would want to be treated. And I know for a fact that you would not want to be treated the way that I've seen some other people being treated. Take, for example, Luna, who is an amazing leftist. Brilliant, kind. And if you give Luna the basic amount of respect that every human being deserves, whether you're of her tendency or not, she will be so fiercely loyal to you, I promise. She is a great comrade to anarchists and Marxist-Leninists and Maoists. She's a great comrade to anybody who shows her just a basic amount of dignity and respect. But the way that I've seen people treat her, dehumanize her, debase her, dismiss her in ways that I've never had to experience in my entire life disgusts me. The way that the Twitter mob relishes and delights in brigading and attacking and just being sanctimonious and sarcastic and hateful towards each other. And I've been guilty of that myself to some extent or another. And I've blown up at people. Tonight, I've blown up at people. And I've had to apologize to people tonight. I mean, I'm no saint. I'm as guilty of this as anybody. And that's why I'm saying we have to work together to build a better culture. I'm reading Gramsci right now, and something that, I don't know if it's pronounced, I think it's pronounced Gramsci, but something that Gramsci talks about a lot is that we have to build a culture, because the cultural hegemony is such a powerful component of capitalist oppression of the working class. We revolutionaries have to have a culture of our own to counter that. But right now what we're doing is we're just going we're going along, we're sleepwalking with the same capitalistic, individualistic, acrid, alienated culture that we were born into. And I'm guilty of this myself. And I fight it every day of my life. It's hard for me. I know what it's like to want to hurt somebody because you feel like they hurt you. And I know what it's like not to have processed trauma well. And a lot of that comes from trauma and alienation. I've certainly lashed out because somebody has plucked at old wounds, and some of that has happened tonight. But we got to do better. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why am I and this person who made this takedown video and these dozens of people who are DMing me, emailing me, tweeting at me, quote tweeting me, why are we putting all of this energy and negativity, this tit for tat, these trials, these struggle sessions? Why are we going through this right now? In 3 days? Do you not realize that in 3 days in the USA, there's a very good chance of some kind of fascist, armed, chaotic violence on a mass scale being committed across the USA during the inauguration? Do you not realize that? I'm sitting here thinking, why am I worrying about this right now and these people that are supposed to be my comrades when my uncle, who's immunocompromised, has HIV, has COVID right now, and my best friend, who I've known since I was a freshman in college, just recently, just 2 days ago, had to take a flight across the USA from Washington to South Carolina to go to his grandfather's funeral to help his family take care of all that. And he's terrified that he's going to give his aging parents COVID from the flight. My mom and my dad they have immunocompromised, issues of their own. And I'm terrified about them every day. Because these neoliberals and these fascists don't care about their humanity or your humanity if you live in the USA or if you live in Canada or Europe or anywhere in the world, really, almost with very rare exception. Why isn't that our big priority right now? Why am I struggling with this? And I'm not saying this is like a victim. I'm saying, why are any of us struggling with these things? Why aren't we treating each other the way we would want to be treated? There's a material basis for this within anarchism. In this article, Anarchist Morality by Kropotkin, I'm going to read now part 6. Okay, so just to set this up, this is a document, I'll put the link in the description, that outlines the material biological basis for ethics, according to Kropotkin. And it's based on the principles of mutual aid and species self-preservation. So part 6 of Anarchist Morality by Kropotkin. Thus, by an unprejudiced observation of the animal kingdom, we reach the conclusion that wherever society exists at all, this principle may be found. Treat others as you would like them to treat you under similar circumstances. And when we study closely the evolution of the animal world, we discover that the aforesaid principle, translated by the one word solidarity, has played an infinitely larger part in the development of the animal kingdom than all the adaptations that have resulted from a struggle between individuals to acquire personal advantages. This is the reason why practical solidarity never ceases, not even during the worst periods of history. Even when temporary circumstances of domination, servitude, exploitation cause the principle to be disowned, it still lives deep in the thoughts of the many, ready to bring out a strong recoil against evil institutions, a revolution. If it were otherwise, society would perish. The moral sense is a natural faculty in us, like the sense of smell or of touch. We do not wish to be ruled, and by this very fact, do we not declare that we ourselves wish to rule nobody? We do not wish to be deceived. We wish always to be told nothing but the truth, and by this very fact, do we not Do we not declare ourselves? We do not wish to deceive anybody. We do not wish to have the fruits of our labor stolen from us, and by this very fact do we not declare that we respect the fruits of others' labor. By what right, indeed, can we demand that we should be treated in one fashion, reserving it to ourselves to treat others in a fashion entirely different? Our sense of equality revolts at such an idea. Equality in mutual relations, with the solidarity arising from it, this is the most powerful weapon of the animal world in the struggle for existence. And equality is equity. By proclaiming ourselves anarchists, we proclaim beforehand that we disavow any way of treating others in which we should not like them to treat us, that we will no longer tolerate the inequality that has allowed some among us to use their strength, their cunning, or their ability after a fashion in which it would annoy us to have such qualities used against ourselves. We have to find and rediscover this deep instinct that we have that's been alienated from us. We have to find some sense of charity and goodwill for our fellow anarchists and communists. At the very least, we have to work on our threat assessment and look out the window at the suffering out there, the millions of people who are facing eviction, people who need that. There's 19 million people who haven't gotten their relief checks, the $600 little tiny $600 ones, and they need those. They're desperately hoping that they'll get them as soon as possible. The people in Brazil, I have a lot of comrades in Brazil, especially in Luna's audience. There's just been a huge explosion of Brazilian people watching her channel, and we've just been talking to so many people in Brazil who are terrified of the fascist Bolsonaro. They're terrified. They're having to bury their relatives. They're terrified that they're going to get sick themselves. They feel like nobody's taking care of them. They don't have anybody to turn to, except for each other, I guess. What else do we have? Joe Biden's not going to get us out of this situation that we're in. The Democrats aren't going to get us out. The squad's not going to get us out. We have to rely on each other. We have got to take care of each other. We've got to be comrades to each other. And that word means something to me. I know it's kind of a meme on the internet, but when I say that somebody is my comrade, it means to me that I share a vision with that person for the future. And maybe we don't agree on how to get there, but we all want a stateless, classless society, don't we? Everyone who calls themselves an anarchist or a communist, and I'm not saying you have to ally with everybody, people that you don't trust, people that you strongly disagree with, people whose motivations you don't trust. Of course not. As much as I would love to see leftist unity, I know that that's not going to happen. I believe that tactical unity is possible to strive towards. And I know that we have to defend ourselves, which Kropotkin addresses. Perhaps it may be said, it has been said sometimes, but if you think that you must always treat others as you would treat yourself, as you'd be treated yourself, what right have you to use force under any circumstances, whatever? What right have you to level a cannon at any barbarous or civilized invaders of your country? What right have you to dispossess the exploiter? What right to kill not only a tyrant, but a mere viper? What right? What do you mean by that singular word borrowed from the law? Do you wish to know if I shall feel conscious of having acted well in doing this? If those I esteem will think I have done well? Is this what you ask? If so, the answer is simple. Yes, certainly, because we ourselves should ask to be killed like venomous beasts if we went to invade Burmese or Zulus who have done us no harm. We should say to ourselves, to our son or our friend, kill me if I ever take part in the invasion. Yes, certainly, because we ourselves should ask to be dispossessed if, giving the lie to our principles we seized upon an inheritance, did it fall from on high to use it for the exploitation of others. So yes, defend yourself. Be strong, but be compassionate and be kind and treat others the way you want to be treated. If we can do this, if we can go back to this basic foundational platform, for lack of a better term, of anarchism, of the survival of our species up until now, we will become so powerful so quickly. We will dismantle capitalism and fascism rapidly if all of us can just subscribe to this principle and apply it to our lives. Treat others the way you want to be treated. It's so basic, but it's so difficult, right? Especially when you've been raised in this capitalist, individualistic society where aloofness and detachment and alienation are somehow warped and twisted into something to admire in others. We have to listen to Gramsci on this one. We have to build our own culture. We have to stop sleepwalking through the motions of the capitalist, individualistic culture that we were raised in. And that's why when I talked to Luna about this, she said it's shocking to her the way that she sees European and American leftists talking to each other online. It's shocking to her the way we treat each other. She told me that in Vietnam, she's never had an argument about the use of a word ever. She says it's just never happened. It wouldn't even occur to her. There's no concept for it. She said if somebody uses a word differently than she expects, she'd say, oh, that's weird. What do you mean by that? And then they'd explain it, and then they would just continue having their conversation. It doesn't happen because Vietnam has a culture of collectivism. And I don't mean conformity when I say that. There are issues with conformity in Vietnam. It's for all of you who say I never criticize Vietnam, there's problems in Vietnam. But they have a specific collective aspect to their culture that we've got to figure out how to build in our movement. And really, it should be all of our movement, right? You have more in common with the Vietnamese working class person than you do with a capitalist in your home country. You know that. This is basic stuff. So, look, I want to end with the same point I began with. I feel lousy that I've made this video in the context of something I personally am going through myself. I don't want to be the poster boy for this at all, because what I've been going through is just shamefully petty and really not even worth discussing in and of itself. The only reason that I stayed up and made this video and I'm going to publish it is because these are thoughts I've been having for a long time, and they're really should be more focused on other people who are going through worse than I am. You know, maybe that's a moral failing on my part that I was only driven to make this video now after I've gone through some very, very minor discomfort. But it is what it is. And, you know, now that I've said it, I'm going to keep saying it. And I think it's something we have to take to heart, folks. So, look, if you ever disagree with me, then tell me. If you have criticisms to anything I've said, let me know. If I'm wrong, please tell me. I'm not an expert on this shit. I just became a leftist about 4 or 5 years ago when Bernie Sanders was running for president in 2015. That's when my perspective shifted. So I'm still learning this stuff. And, you know, I'll never say that I'm an authority on this stuff. Never. I always want you to do your own research. Don't just take for granted anything that I say or anything that Luna says. We're comrades, okay? I'm not. I never want you to think that I'm like on some kind of pedestal or that I believe that I'm on some kind of pedestal. I'm wrong all the time. I've been wrong about much worse things than this. Like if let's say that I'm wrong about platformism completely, right? Let's say that I'm absolutely wrong, and this takedown video, everything they said about me was correct, and I'm just like couldn't be more wrong in this situation. If that's the case, it's far from the worst thing I've done as a YouTuber or as a content creator or as a streamer. I've done far, far, far worse, more harmful, more damaging things than this, and frankly gotten away with it with no takedown video whatsoever. So I'm not going to say that I don't deserve this, and I'm not a victim, and I don't want you to feel sorry for me, and I don't want you to center this on me and my personal situation. I'm fine. I'm a almost 37-year-old white male-presenting person. I am non-binary, but I am male-presenting, and I know the privilege that comes with. I'm going to be fine. You know? Don't feel sorry for me. That's not the point of this at all, and I'm being so sincere when I say that. And I'm sure that, like, you know, people are going to see this and they're going to think that I'm being insincere because that's how we are. We don't trust we don't fucking trust each other. We always assume an ulterior motive in other people, and I'm guilty of that myself, you know? So I don't know. I'm just reaching down deep and I'm trying to pull out my deepest sincerity to tell you, this is not about myself. And it's not about this little situation. And I don't really care about this takedown video so much. It's the culture that I feel like it's a symptom of that I'm really viscerally upset by here. And I'm a part of that myself, and I've been guilty of it myself. Okay. So this is a message from me to myself and to all of us. Let's do better. Let's build a better culture on the left. Let's take care of each other and let's be kind. Okay. I'm American Johnson. This is NonCompete. Thank you very much for watching. See you next week in hopefully a much better video than this, I hope to God. Bye.